Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on Wednesday, June the 9th. The year's 2021. Let's talk trading. Today's topic, trading, is part science and part art. This is part 3 with Walmal. Just a reminder, these videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine and from Walmal. Walmal, welcome back. Hope you're feeling better.
Oh, thank you. It's been a rough week because of this, but that's okay.
Well, the boys and girls and non-binary traders and we've been talking about trading as part science and part art. And yesterday I mentioned that, each method that I have out there is basically a science type method, based on statistics, like frequency distributions and ranges and all that kind of stuff. But the art is when you put them together. So there was a trader that had posted out on Facebook that he had taken a rat trade, but it was early in the day. I go, no, that really wasn't a rat trade because there wasn't enough distance between the daily high and low. What you took was a wick zone trade. So I put that chart up there for everybody to see. So we want to hear what you have to say about part art, part science.
Well, I referred to a story from my dad, and from the perspective, he was a mathematics professor at a university, and what he always told us as his kids and also his students, he said the same thing, and that is that arithmetic is science, mathematics is art. And people say, well, scratch their head and say, what are you talking about? How could that be? Isn't that the same thing? And the reality is they're not. Arithmetic is actually going out there and doing the statistics, doing the computations, figuring things out, putting hard numbers down to something that's concrete and in this world. Whereas art, on the other hand, is something that's looking at it sometimes from a theoretical point of view, or just in terms of looking at how things move, whether it be in engineering or, in our case, whether it be in trading. And I think that's a good baseline to look at this in terms of trading, because we have our rules, and that's the arithmetic, or that's the science. We know when we're supposed to go long. We know when we're supposed to go short. We know, using the example you just gave about, the rat trade, really that wasn't a rat trade. What that was, because it didn't follow the rules correctly. Doesn't mean that it's not a valid trade to take. It just means that it's not a rat trade, And so where's the art play in all this? Well, the art is, here's the reality. That rat trade, when do you take it? I like to go and take it when there's at least, a range for the day of like 60 or 80 pips range on the day. It's ranged in one direction that far. That's when I personally like to take it. I know, Tiro, you play it a little bit differently than I do, but that's just me. That's how I do it. And that's the art part of it, because we know statistically it'll work, but the art part is taking our personality, it's taking all the things that we've learned about the market and going and actually figuring out how to go and make that work, and work for ourselves.
Exactly. So, in fact, I put that chart up again, and you can see that the rat is actually inside the lower wick zone of yesterday's candle. So you've got a rat trade inside a wick zone. So does it break the wick zone at 51.3, at yesterday's bottom, or does it break out of the rat zone at 41.34, or does it stay and make a new low? That's what we have to see.
And that's what you have to figure out, and the art of all this is knowing that and knowing how the market moves, It's the type of thing where, I was calling out prices to you earlier, Tiro, where I thought price was going to go, and every one of those prices got hit. There's really no mathematics, or rather not mathematics, but there's no real statistics that really played into it for me with doing that. That was the art part of it, of just knowing where price was going and just being able to look at the chart and say, it needs to come here. Now, if you ask me a reason why, I can give you a couple of things. Well, I was looking at it. It was, there were lows that were out there. I was calling out that the market had to get down to, I think the first place I said it had to get to was 35. Then I said the next place it had to get to was 25. Then I said it's got to get down to 21, and it'll probably turn around at 21. And, and reality is that, it actually got down to, I believe, 15 or something like that, and that's where it actually turned. Now, that doesn't mean I can go and I've got some special, hold on the market, and I can go and really pinpoint it exactly. But just sitting there and trading this day in and day out, you get to the point where you can actually see where the market's going to go. Now, the thing is that makes it difficult is the fact that it doesn't get from, point A to point B in a straight line. And so you got to be able to pick your points where you're going to get into your trades and, what your cutoffs are. And then the thing that's so aggravating a lot of times, for me and for every other trader I think that's out there, is that, I could go and pick that. It's going to go down to 21. I put my trade in to go 21, and my stop loss gets hit. And then 15, 20, 30 minutes later, guess what it hits? It hits the 21 just like I knew it would, and the question is, okay, well, what do we do with that? Does that mean that, we were risking too many lots and therefore we didn't have a big enough stop loss? Maybe, maybe not. Or is it just because that's just the way the market moved at that moment in time? Probably more likely, at least for me anyway, it's more likely that way, because I'm pretty conservative in terms of how I risk, and managing my risk. Other traders have maybe flipped the other way, and that's the art of you being a trader, because you need to figure out, okay, what works for you, and what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, and then work on those weaknesses.
Well, that's interesting. You talked about, strength and weaknesses, because if you have a weakness on the science side, that's just more study. But the weakness on the art side, I think that's probably a little more difficult to work on.
It is, because that gets into a lot of different areas. Because the weakness on the art side is, the reality is, if you go and ask me to draw, some type of, picture in art or whatever, okay, you're going to get a stick figure back. I just don't have that. I don't have that talent, and that's just the reality. That's all I can do, and I'm never going to be able to do it. Now, at the same time, there are other things that I can do very well in a very creative way. I love to do woodworking, and I can be very, very creative on the woodworking side, and so that's my strength on the art side. So what do? Well, I like to go and play around with wood, I'll go and build some furniture and things like that. You're not going to see me going out and spending some money so I can go and draw a picture. My father, on the other hand, he loves to draw pictures, or at least when he was a young man, he used to love to draw pictures. And, his house was just filled with his art that he had drawn and hung that art up, up on the walls. He wasn't going to go win any art contests or anything, but compared to me, he was a stinking genius, And trading's the same way too. It doesn't mean that, the great thing about trading is that there's always a way for everybody, I believe, to go and be able to make money on it. The problem is you got to figure out in your art form, what is it that you're good at? And part of that may be, I'm really good at picking where direction's going to go over the next 15 minutes. If you can do that, you can make a mint. You really can, because you just need to know that, okay, I got to create a plan around that, so I'm able to go and just constantly be taking, those trades, and they're just short-term trades. Just nail it, nail it, nail it, nail it, nail it. And that's just what you got to do. On the other hand, you may know somebody who's able to go and just, I know by the end of today, the market's going to hit the 4,100 on the pound dollar. And just know that right from the beginning of the day. Well, what are they going to do? Well, they need to go and have a huge stop loss put in place, which means that they're risking a whole lot less lots, to be, if you want to go and be able to stay in the game anyway. But the thing is, they'll make the same amount of money at the end of the day because it would have moved down, 60, 70 pips or whatever it needed to do to go and hit that 4,100. So that's just that's the way the game gets played.
Yes, definitely. So I brought up the Walmal chart for this hour. So far, no trades, and it's 11 o'clock on the New York side. So I think this is about, are we done, or do we have one more hour of Walmal?
We're done.
Yeah.
We're done. In fact, because of the fact that we've had such muted hours, or muted days and muted hours, you look at the charts. Actually, the last 3 hours are actually pretty good hours, a 34, a 27, and a 44. But all the hours prior to that were all like 10, 17, 16. At this point, I'd say this is probably not a good hour to trade Walmal. I'll just go and, if I'm going to trade anything, I'll go and do like we talked about, the DSR trades, doing one of those type of trades, or a three-level ZZ trade, those type of trades, where I'm looking just to go and pick up, 1, 2, 3 pips at a shot. And even if the market only moves in an hour 10 pips, you'll get one trade, and you can go and pick up 3 pips, 4 pips. Maybe you get lucky and get all 10 pips, and that's part of the art of knowing this as well, because just knowing that, hey, this is type of day, that we've been in. And at the same time, I may be wrong. This may be another explosive hour, that happens here at the 11 o'clock hour. But, the thing is, I wouldn't count on it. But if it is explosive, you know what? Those 3 LZZ trades, they're pretty good indicators of direction of market. And you may catch that entire big move.
Exactly.
So, that's part of the art as well. It's just being able to say, what the market does, what this particular instrument likes to do. You know what the time of day is. Okay, so those are all the hard facts. Now let's go and apply some art to that, and go and be able to go and be able to figure out. Okay, this is what I really want to do for this hour. That's my game plan for this hour. That's the art part of it. At least from my mind, it is. It's one of the things I'm just thinking about. I can give a recipe to somebody. Or, a great chef can give a recipe to somebody to go and cook something fantastic, and when the chef cooks it, it comes out like, this is the greatest meal I've ever had in my life. But the average Joe goes and cooks it, and it's like, it's good, but it's not the greatest meal you've ever had in your life. Well, what's the difference? It's that art that gets played on top of it. It's that just that little finesse, of being able to just go and finesse things. And that's something, unfortunately, that, you can't teach it, and I can't teach it. And there's only one way. There's only one teacher of that, and that is just a school of hard knocks, going out there and doing it.
Yeah, you're probably right. But the thing about you brought up cooking, and it's almost like trading. If you follow the recipe, and you do it properly, everything should work out.
Right. You're right, and it should work out. The great thing about the art of all of this is that you follow the recipe, and then what happens is, as you get better, and not right away, not in the beginning, but as you get better, you can start applying some of that art, and then on those moves where you may only pick up 3 or 4 pips, you may be able to turn those 3 or 4 pips into maybe 10 pips, and that's the art form of it. Or the other way around it is, as you get better, those times when you're up 3 pips and you should have gotten out, you'll be able to read that market better and get out at that 3+3 instead of going and taking a loss of 3 or 5 or 7.
Yeah, well, and speaking of getting out, the fastest 15 minutes of trading is up. So, fellow traders, hope you enjoyed that. It's good to have Walmal back, and we'll probably continue this topic tomorrow. So when you're sitting down at your trading platform, part art, part science, because it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.